Hey guys, Misery here, back with another CZM video, and today I'll be talking about everything you need to know about memory fragments and gear in general on how to gear your DPS, controllers, and shielders. So as you can see, I am in the farming page where you farm gear and memory fragments. I'll be discussing which sets and what stages are the best to farm to maximize the stamina you use for your best value. So this first one with the 2 new gear sets, I don't really think it's that valuable as of right now. The only people I can really think of using this void set is Chizuru, but the other void set is a lot better than this one. And then this instinct one just doesn't really seem that good because there's not really many instinct DPSs. Most instinct units are like shielders or controllers like Nia, Kalipe. So I think this set was added because I think potentially down the line, maybe within the next 3 raid ups, that we maybe get a instinct unit that can use this. But as of right now, I would not recommend farming this first one. But the second stage is gonna be good because it has the 2-piece max HP set, and you're gonna want this on all your shielders and all your supports and controllers. The only problem with this is that it's not maximizing your value because you also have this 4-set crit damage 1 cost card piece, and you don't really run this on a lot of DPS. This is kind of like a niche set. So it's like a 50-50 value, whether it be the max HP set or this Conqueror's aspect set. But if you do need this aspect set, then farming this is twice as efficient because you're double dipping and getting both. Onto the third stage, we have the 2-piece 12% defense set. This is also another set you're going to be wanting to run on your controllers and supports and shielders. So this is kind of similar the last stage I was talking about, where you're going to want this one set, and this other set really isn't that good. You don't really run this on DPSs. It's only 20% critical chance for cards that cost 2 or more, which is like super niche. A lot of DPSs have 0 and 1 cost cards. Don't get me wrong, there is a fair amount of DPSs with 2 cost cards or more, but you don't really want a set that's going to be niche and not going to be active 24/7. Onto the next stage. This is the stage where we get into our first real value on farming. If you are farming for someone like Hugo. So Hugo, usually you pair Hugo with Tressa and you do a ton of agony and agony damage with them. So this 2 set is going to be really good on Hugo because it's going to be increasing his damage against agony units. But on top of that, it's also order 4 set, which Hugo wants because he's a DPS, or he can run 2-2. But if you are farming this stage with both of these, you can double dip and fully complete his set just farming this one stage. Whereas these previous stages, you're not really double dipping. And then the next stage, the same thing goes for Void TPS. Like I farmed this so many times for my Kayron because you get the 2-piece attack set, but you also get the Void set. Now I don't run Void set on my Kayron, not anymore, because when I was farming the attack set, I got good attack pieces, but I'm also currently farming for my Veronica right now in this last stage, and I got way better crit damage pieces than I have for Void set pieces, so I'm running a 2-2 on my Kayron. This one with the order and agony set, good value. Void and attack set, that's also good value. Now this Seth's Scarab stage. Now this instinct set really isn't good because most instinct units are not really like a DPS. I can't really think of any instinct DPSs in the game right now. Besides maybe like Orleia, you can run as a healer DPS because I know she can do some damage with her retain, but like you're not really using Orleia as a DPS. So like most instinct sets in this game are just bad. This Cassius can do some DPS, but you're not really using him as a DPS. You're using him more as a support and a card searcher. You have Kalipe can DPS, but you're gonna want like a HP and defense set on her rather than this one. Same with Nia. And then the Seth Scarab set isn't much value because maybe early on this set can help, but eventually once you get endgame, you start removing basic cards. So the only time this really helps during the ramp up and a start of a chaos run where you still have your basics before you remove them, but in any other game mode, this is not really gonna help. And then lastly, we have the stage that drops pieces for passion. This is good on Veronica. This is what I use on my Veronica. I'm currently farming this as of right now and trying to get my one last piece I need for Veronica. But the good thing about this stage is that you also get the crit damage set from this. So you can also double dip this stage just like the Void and Order stage. These 2-piece sets, you're gonna need a lot of gear for them because these are like pretty much universal and you can use on like any DPS, whereas the 4-piece sets for DPS can only go for that specific affinity. But I will go in here real quickly and I'll just quickly clear this. Okay, so that is that boss done. Turn 1. As you can see, you get a bunch of rare gear, which for the most part is useless. I discard all of my rare gear. I only care about the legendary gear. So if we go over to the memory fragments page, and we go to manage and dismantle. So I farmed yesterday and today already. I didn't dismantle anything because I planned on making this video, and included in this video I plan on making a cleansing guide on which pieces you should upgrade and look out for on specific sets or for specific unit roles like DPS, shielder, or controller. So how I cleanse is that I just auto register this. I get rid of all my rare gear. None of this is really like important, so I'll dismantle all my rare gear. And now that's out the way, we can move on to the legendary gear. So you can see I have a bunch of +5 pieces that are locked. These are pieces that are good that I'm not using at the current moment. So like this one, crit chance, crit damage, void damage main. This could be potentially used on my K-Ron down the line. Probably not, or it could be used on my DPS Ray. Yeah, most of these pieces just all have crit chance, crit damage, because I farmed a bunch of DPS gear. And then I have this Seth Scarab set that I farmed early game. I got lucky and got crit chance, crit damage on both of them, but I do not use this anymore as I remove all my basics. So this is kind of pointless for me. But onto the cleansing guide. So you can see this is +1. I rolled this yesterday because this was potentially the last piece I was looking for from my Veronica. So as you can see, it's attack % main, crit damage, attack, and then I rolled the last piece hoping for crit chance, but sadly I did not get crit chance. So this piece is useless. I would cleanse this. And then if we go onto the other pieces, the first 3 slots, I do not care about the main slot because the main slot is a fixed stat. But for the first 3 main slots, looking for crit chance and crit damage only, if it has attack flat and attack percentage on it with the crit subs, then that's even better. But mainly just looking for crit chance and crit damage subs on the first 3 slots. So if we go over here on the left side, we can actually filter by the specific slots. For this first slot, looking for crit chance and crit damage on these subs. If there's no crit chance or crit damage, then I will cleanse it. So this one has crit chance. Okay, I keep this because I can potentially roll this and get crit damage on the 4th sub. So I will unselect this. And then same thing here, crit damage. I keep this because there's a chance I could roll crit chance on the 4th sub. But otherwise, I will delete all this and we get these fragments. I'll talk about these later on because these are important. And then on to slot 2, I don't have much here. Crit chance, keep. Crit damage, keep. And crit chance, keep. I have a bunch of 3rd slots here. No crit chance, crit damage, no. No. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. No. No. And no. Dismantle. So the 4th slot is different from the first 3. So if we go over here to craft, and we just pick a random 4 slot. This has a chance for attack %, health %, crit chance, and crit damage main. The only one you want here for DPSs is crit chance. Unless in the future they release like a 100% crit chance built-in unit, but there's nothing even close to that right now, so crit chance for DPSs is always it, not attack %. And then for shielders or supports, you go health %. But if we go back to dismantle, health % main, this is not on a support set, so I would dismantle this. Crit damage. Now, I did mention that in the future, if they add a 100% built-in crit chance unit, you can go for crit damage, but I'm not going to hold my breath and wait and save all my crit damage pieces that are main stats for 4th slot. So until that time comes, if it does come, I will be dismantling crit damage mains. Attack, don't care about it. Crit damage, health, crit damage, crit chance. So out of all these, this crit chance one is the only one that is worth keeping because I have a chance for getting crit damage in the 4th sub. And then we'll just dismantle all of this. And then the 5th and 6th slot, the hardest pieces of gear in the game to farm. And you may be asking, why are they the hardest? Well, if we go over here to the 5th and 6th slot. Okay, 5th slot is by far the hardest one to farm in my opinion, over 6, because look how many main stats are possible here. Attack %, health %, passion, order, justice, void, and instinct damage by %. That is a 1 in 7 chance to roll the correct main stat you need. Well, technically it's like a 2 in 7 because if it's a DPS, attack percentage, or the affinity damage by percentage, both can work. You don't need to go for one or the other. So there's 2 alternative options if you want DPS here. If it's a shielder or a support, you just want health percentage here. But if we go back to dismantle and go to 5, the problem with the 5th slot, on top of rolling the 2 in 7 chance for your DPS, you have to roll crit damage and crit chance for the subs. So instead of the first 3 slots where you just have to worry about 2 subs, crit chance and crit damage, you have to worry about 2 subs here and the main stat. It's so much more RNG. So this piece, like I said, I rolled yesterday. I will get rid of this because no crit chance. This one, void damage main on a passion set, useless. Health percentage, useless. Is not on a shielder or a support set. Passion damage. Oh, this one, if it rolls crit chance, this is usable since it's on the 2 set and it has crit damage. Whereas if this was on like a order set, it would be useless because it would be passion damage on a order set bonus. But since the set bonus isn't affinity specific, this passion damage will be fine. So I will keep this and roll this. This is just a random piece of gear I have in here from a chaos run, so I don't really care about this, so I'm just gonna cleanse it. Passion damage, no crit damage or crit chance sub. This one is this one's like an actual pretty good piece, like for someone like Veronica, because attack percent main, crit chance, flat attack, and extra damage. And Veronica's ballistas count as extra damage. But just in general, there should have been like a list on the side of the screen of the most important sub to the least important sub for DPS. So it goes crit chance, crit damage, flat attack, and then attack percentage. In that specific order from best to worst and most important to least important for DPS. I also have something on the screen for shielders and supports stat priorities, not just DPS. So if you are trying to build shielders or supports, then I got you. I actually just realized I had this piece selected by accident, so good thing I noticed that, and I'm gonna unselect it because that was a good piece and I don't want to cleanse it. Then on to the next piece. Order damage, attack, and crit damage. This one is really good for a order character. I'm going to keep this because I do have my Yuki and I'm planning on building her, so that could be good for her. Passion damage, no crit subs, so useless. No crit subs, useless. And no crit subs, useless. So I will dismantle all of that. And then onto the 6th piece. If we go over to the craft section and go to the 6th piece, this one only has 4 main stats, so it's not 7 like the 5th piece. This one is probably the one you need to pay attention to the most for specific units. So attack percentage, you want that on any DPS. Defense, you want this on healers because healers scale their healing with defense. Like, I know like some people might not even know that because I just recently found that out like 2 weeks ago. I thought it was scaled with health, but it's not. So I wouldn't really recommend going health unless they scale on health, or you are having trouble staying alive and need more HP, or you just can't roll defense for the life of you. And then ego recovery, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going for ego recovery because units like Mika do want ego recovery. If we go over to her potentials, I don't have her potentials just yet, but if Mika's ego recovery is greater than 40, she gets more healing, and then for every 5 ego recovery after that, you'll get more. And then same for her other node, is that if Mika's ego recovery is greater than 30, additional 5%. So just because of that, I stacked ego recovery on my Mika. I didn't go for ego recovery main because healing scales off of defense, but I did get lucky and get 17 ego recovery on this one piece. But I went for defense, HP, and ego recovery on all of my pieces. So defense, ego, health, health, ego, defense, health, ego, defense, health, ego, defense. This one actually has 2 health, which is better. Defense, ego, health, and ego, health, defense. The main stats you just want on Mika are just mainly those, or Nia. You want those stats on Nia too. But I'm just running her on a 2-2 right now. She won't really benefit from a 3rd second set unless maybe it's Seth Scarab and you're not removing your basics, but not really worth for me to go and farm that. And now onto the 6 slot pieces. I'm mainly just looking for DPS pieces right now, not support or shielder pieces, because these are DPS sets, the crit damage and this passion set that I've mainly been farming. But if it's on the 2-piece HP or defense set, you're going to be wanting to look for different stats. Like I said, for Mika or like any healer, you'll want ego recovery, HP, and defense. And the same goes for shielders. Maybe instead of ego recovery, you can go for like a crit chance. If it's someone like Kalipe or Magna and you want to build them like kind of like a sub DPS for extra damage, like a shielder type of DPS. But yeah, it really just depends on what you want to build. So this first slot, HP main, don't care. Next piece, attack main, no crit subs. These are just 2 random gears that I got from a chaos run because weekly reset just happened today. Now I had 1 card left to get free gears, so that's what I just did. This actually had a crit sub. I probably would have kept it, but it doesn't, so. Set Scarab, don't really care for this set. Probably never going to use it again. Attack percentage, no crit subs. Defense, no. Defense, no. Ego recovery, no. And HP, no. So I will dismantle all of that. So after cleansing all that gear, you're going to want to go in and you're going to want to roll the gear that you kept. So crit chance, I kept this because it has a crit chance sub and it can get crit damage sub, so it gets defense. This is useless now. This is not going to be good for me, so I'm not going to lock it. I only lock pieces that I plan on keeping. Crit chance, okay, this one got lucky, so I will lock this so when I'm cleansing I don't accidentally sell it. Onto the second slot. Attack percentage, not usable. Extra damage, not usable. HP, not usable. A third slot, no crit chance. No crit chance. No crit chance. Wait, why do I have this? Why did I keep this? I must have skipped over this. This one's ass. I'm not rolling that. Looking for crit damage here. Unusable. Looking for a crit chance. Unusable. Crit damage. Unusable. Crit chance. This one could actually be really good. Unusable. And yeah, I only locked 1 piece of gear in all those rolls, which was this one. So I can actually just do this. I'll dismantle all of that. But the 1 piece that did roll well, I will go over here. I will roll it to +5 and see how it rolls. Defense, that's not good. Okay, crit damage. Crit damage again, good. And then defense, or not defense, HP. I will keep this piece just because it's a bunch of crit damage. It's not really the best or ideal since no subs rolled into crit chance, but it is a piece that I will just keep just in case. Now onto crafting. So from cleansing and dismantling all the gear that you just did, you'll have these shards. You can use these shards for the specific set and the specific slot that you want. If we go over to my Veronica, all of her pieces are good except her 5th slot. So this one has crit chance, crit damage, crit chance, crit damage, crit chance, crit damage, crit chance main with crit damage sub and attack percent sub, attack percent main, crit damage, crit chance. This 5th slot is the only one that I'm missing without crit damage. If we go over to craft, you can select the specific slot that you want that you're trying to chase for. Now if you have this rare specific currency, the multi-dimensional alignment material, the one that looks like a diamond, you can actually choose what main stat that you want to help thin it down and maybe get the piece that you want. But I would really only use these on the pieces that are super hard to get, like a 5th slot or a 6th slot, the hardest ones to farm, because this currency is kind of hard to come by. They don't give these out just freely, so I'd use these on 5th and 6th slot, the hardest pieces to farm. Otherwise, if you don't have one of those to use, you can still use just 100 fragments. It will give you the specific slot. You just can't choose what main you want. Or if you don't want to pick a specific slot, you can gamble and go for a 1 in 6 chance for 50, but that is just horrible value. I'd rather just use 100 and get the specific slot that I want, because it's already enough RNG involved just getting the specific piece you want, even while selecting the slot. Whereas if you just go 1 in 6 chance, it's so much more RNG dependent and harder to get. But now, as you see, I have 558 of these fragments. I can do 5 of these, but what I prefer and recommend doing is that roll these 1 by 1 in case you do get the specific gear you want, so that you don't waste the extra shards that could be used on like a different specific piece of gear that you want. So I will roll this, I will see what I get. Attack main, but no crit chance or crit damage subs, so that is useless. Order damage on a passion set, useless. Another order damage, useless. Another order damage, holy shit. Passion damage, if this had crit chance or crit damage, it would have been useful, but, or not useful, but at least rollable. But now that you use your fragments for gear, you can just dismantle the pieces that are not usable or that you don't want, and then you get fragments back. So when you craft with 100 fragments, you're just crafting with 90 if you get a bad piece. So dismantling those 5 pieces allowed me to get back up to 100, and I can do 1 more roll. HP main, useless. I showed my Veronica gear. I'll show my Kayron gear because it's probably my best set. 900 attack, 62.5% crit chance, almost 230% crit damage. I have crit damage, crit chance here. Crit damage, crit chance. Crit damage, crit chance. Attack, crit damage, and crit chance. This piece is pretty good. Those are the 4 main DPS stats that you want. Attack main, crit chance, crit damage. Attack main, crit damage, crit chance. So those are my main DPS. I have Yuki, but her sets, I be swapping gear around. I usually use like my Kayron set on Yuki and then my Ray set on Kayron. So right now she's not really equipped. Still working on my Nia. And then my Ray set is done. My Ray, Mika, and Kayron set are all done. And then I just need one more piece from my Veronica and then she'll be done. And then I can work on maybe Nia or finishing the non-completed set I have on my Yuki. But I have my Ray built DPS because I use her as a sub DPS. So if we go over to her stats, 700 attack, 44% crit chance, 167 crit damage. A comment in one of my videos that I got is that why are you running sub DPS when you have no attack cards in your save data? So my Ray, I use her a ton for like chaos runs and her basic cards are still in there. And then I also have some other save datas with her attack cards. Like this Agony build would be good for the sub DPS set that I got right now. Yeah, I just use Ray a ton for chaos runs and I use a lot of her basic cards there, so that's why mainly I have her on a sub DPS set. You can go HP and defense if you want to lean more for like a support Ray. Either is fine. And I think that will be the end of the video. I think I covered everything you need to know when it comes to farming memory fragments and just gear in general. How to cleanse, dismantle, craft, just the subs you need to look out for and everything. So I hope this video helped some of you and was informative. If it was, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment on what you want to see next. Take care.